Do you need gender dysphoria to be trans? Well, the answer is something that's been very controversial to talk about within trans circles for the last 5 years is, do you need to deal with gender dysphoria to be trans? Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder and describes the extreme discomfort an individual has regarding their biological sex. And gender dysphoria is the only mechanism that makes the individual transition. Due to the insane rise in people, young people especially, identifying as trans, because it's trendy nowadays, it would suddenly give people a minority status. Statistically impossible that these people actually deal with the mental disorder. Modern and woke trans activists have changed the definition of what it means to be trans in order to include people who will never know what it's like, who will never have this experience. Not only did the definition of what it means to be trans change within trans circles, it also changed within the trans clinics, the place where people get the medical transition. We're today not only seeing a rise in people identifying as trans, we're also seeing a rise in people who obviously are not gender dysphoric transition to some degree, just a little bit.
I'm on my period right now. This is my first time having a period in 2 years, and also my first time having a period as a man. It's so funny telling people. I was telling people, everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And my favorite response is just like, "A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. It's just part of being a dude. I don't know. It's just part of having boy pussy. I don't fucking know. Boys will be boys, am I right?"
As much as I believe in freedom of speech, I wish I could force you to never say boy pussy ever again. So this is a biological female, a woman, who has been on testosterone, and I'm assuming she stopped taking testosterone. And it was a while ago, since she can get periods again. Me when other trans men are arguing about whether or not you have to be dysphoric to be trans, when we could be clapping clams instead. No comment. She's proving that bearded women exist. I cannot address this enough. She's not a trans man. Why would she even go on testosterone if she's comfortable looking like a woman? Sounding like a woman, showing off her big breasts in front of thousands of people. Why? I do know why. It's because she doesn't deal with gender dysphoria. Isn't she admitting that herself? As I stated in the beginning of the video, a lot of people transition nowadays because it's trendy. They do it to get a minority status, to get brownie points, to escape not only reality, but to escape their body. You could argue that's what real transsexuals do. We feel trapped in our own bodies, so we change them, and then our mental health gets better. But gender dysphoria is not the only mental disorder an individual can have if they're uncomfortable in their own skin, if they don't like their bodies, even their own gender. Having an identity crisis is a common symptom of bipolar disorder, and also borderline. Not liking your own gender and body is common for the people who've been essayed as children, or teenagers, as adults even. You get my point. Having autism is a big one. I want to make a separate video where I talk about why so many autistic people identify as trans and transition. A lot of autistic people deal with obsessive behavior. It means they can be obsessed with certain topics. And in this case, there's so many autistic people who are obsessed with the trans community online, especially on TikTok and Reddit. I know this is shocking, but the woman I'm reacting to today is autistic.
I took the drugs and the drugs are working. Took the drugs are working. And the drugs are working. And the drugs are working. I took the drugs.
What do you mean the drugs are working? Talking about testosterone when you don't look like a man. And you don't sound like one either. You obviously don't want to get top surgery, so what is your goal? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Because I'm pretty sure that regular women with PCOS are just as masculine as you.
I need you to be honest with me. Is it giving mask? Is it giving trans mask? Don't answer that question.
You don't need dysphoria or to be dysphoric about specific things to be trans. Baby girl, then why be trans? Do you know how offensive your claim is? It's like claiming you don't need to be depressed in order to deal with clinical depression. If you're comfortable with your big breasts, your hyper-femininity, with wearing makeup, and so on, why aren't you not a woman? You're obviously a biological female, so do you think there's only one way to be a woman? Why can't you identify as a woman? What's holding you back? You know what's holding me back, and other trans men like me? Gender dysphoria. You know what you are? Not trans, but privileged. All of these young activists who appropriate the trans identity are super privileged due to them not dealing with gender dysphoria. They can simply choose not to transition. They don't really need to go through anything. Of course it's a choice to transition even for real transsexuals, but we didn't choose the extreme gender discomfort. The fact that it's even a question if you need gender dysphoria to be trans just shows that there are way too many people in the trans community who shouldn't have been there in the first place. Of course you need to deal with gender dysphoria to be trans. Only people with gender dysphoria should have access to the medical transition. If you don't deal with it, don't go through it. Do you know why that is? The transition overall is not going to benefit the people who don't deal with this extreme, uncontrollable gender discomfort. The doctor who gave this woman testosterone is guilty of medical malpractice. Why is it, according to the healthcare system, that autistic girls can't be girls? Is there something wrong with being an autistic girl? I'm just wondering. Because all I see is a bunch of doctors transitioning kids, teenagers, young adults who don't deal with gender dysphoria, but a bunch of different mental disorders. Trans doctors in the West today do not think it's possible to be a man with borderline disorder, SA trauma, let's say, and still be a man. Oh, we must fix this guy's issues with estrogen, surgeries, instead of therapy. What is going on? We're gonna see such a huge rise in detransitioners in the future because in today's society, it's entirely up to the people who deal with mental health issues to diagnose themselves and also treat themselves. Choose their own medicine instead of the doctors with degrees. There's nothing anti-trans, transphobic about needing to deal with gender dysphoria and getting that diagnosed by a professional before receiving the medical transition. Of course, we need gatekeeping because gatekeeping is safekeeping. You know what is actually anti-trans and transphobic? Redefining transsexualism, claiming you don't need to deal with gender dysphoria to be trans. That is actually transphobic. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell, and I'll see you all in my next video. Peace out.